The Gold Spinner. There was once a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter. If only the king could see my daughter, he said, I am sure he would wish to make her queen. I must bring her before him. So he went to the king and said, Sir, I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold. That is an art which pleases me well, said the king. Bring her to my castle tomorrow morning, and I will try what she can do. When she came, the king did not even look at her. He had her sent into a room heaped with straw, and there was set a spinning wheel. Then the king came to the door. Begin to work at once, he said. If you do not spin all this straw into gold before sunrise, you shall die. Then he locked the door and left her alone. The poor girl sat looking at the straw. She did not know how to spin, much less how to turn straw into gold. She sat a while thinking of the king's words, and then she began to weep. The door opened and a little man hopped in. Good evening, miller's daughter, he said. Why do you weep? Oh, she said, if I do not spin this straw into gold, I must die. And I know not even how to spin. What will you give me to spin for you? Asked the little man. My neck ribbon, she said. The little man seated himself before the wheel and took up a handful of straw. Whir, whir, whir. The spool was full of gold. He spun till all the straw was gone and all the spools were full of gold. Then he took the neck ribbon and went away. At sunrise the king came and opened the door. His eyes caught the glitter still larger room full of straw. If you love your life, he said, spin this straw, too, into gold. When he left her, the maiden could only weep. She knew very well that she could never fulfill the task. Soon the same little old man came into the room. What will you give me if I spin for you again? He asked. The ring from my finger, said the maiden. He seated himself again at the spinning wheel. Whir, whir, whir. Soon all the straw was spun into gold. Then he took the ring from her finger and went away. The king came at sunrise to see the gold. He looked at it, and he looked, too, at the beautiful maiden. Then he led her into a third room, larger than either of the others. It, also, was full of straw. You must spin for me one more night, he said. If you fail to spin this straw into gold, you shall lose your life. But if it is all done by sunrise, you shall become my wife. True, she is a miller's daughter, said the king to himself. But she is beautiful as the day, and no queen has more wealth than comes from her fingers. When the maiden was left alone, in came the little old man as before. What will you give me if I spin for you this third time? He asked. I have nothing left that I can give, said the maiden. There is one thing, and only one, for which I will spin tonight, said the little old man. Promise when you are queen to give me your first child. Who knows if I shall ever be queen? Thought the maiden. If he does not spin for me, I shall lose my life. So she made the promise that he wished. At once the little old man set to work and spun and spun. In the morning the king came and found the great room full of gold. Then he took the miller's daughter by the hand and led her out to be made queen. About a year after this the queen had a beautiful little son. As she sat with him in her arms one night, the little old man came into the room. Now keep your promise, he said, holding out his arms for the child. The queen wept and begged him not to take her little son. In vain she offered to give instead all the gold and treasure in the kingdom. At last he said, I will give you 3 days in which to find out my name. If you can do that, you shall keep your child. If not, you must give him up to me without one word. The queen lay awake all night, thinking over all the names she had ever heard. In the morning she sent swift runners over the country to learn the names by which men were called. The next night the little man came again to her room. She repeated all the names that she knew. But he only laughed and said, No, not one of these is my name. The next day the queen sent out to learn all strange names and all nicknames. These she told to the little man. But he answered as before, No, it is none of these. On the third day the runners came back one by one. They had gone far and wide but had not been able to learn a single new name. The last one came in late with a strange tale. At dark he had come through a forest on the mountains. There he saw a tiny little house. He went to the window and looked in. Hopping up and down before the fire was a strange-looking little man. As he hopped, he sang, "Today I brew, tomorrow I bake, next morning I the queen's child take. How glad I am she does not know my name is Rumpelstiltskin." Of Golden sent him away just as the little man came in says, "Now then, Queen, what is my name?" He said, "Are you called Conrad?" She asked, "No." "Henry?" "No." "Then your name must be Rumpelstiltskin." "The fairies must have told you that. The fairies must have told you that," screamed the little man. In his rage he stamped so hard with his right foot that he sank to his waist in the ground. Then, in still greater rage, he caught his left foot with both hands and pulled till he pulled himself in two.